Hello, welcome back to the Megan Daubert podcast. Thanks so much for choosing to join me here today. I am trying to be ready to share this episode today. The story of Michael and our life that I'm sharing would not be complete without me touching on this layer of our life. And it has to do with really the dream and the vision and the goal and the future that we were living prior to his accident, and what ends up being the death of that dream. And it's its own thing for me to process. And those of you who walked through life with us during this whole phase, you know exactly what it was for me and Michael, and we brought you alongside and we're very open, and so many of you prayed over this project every step of the way, and I felt so surrounded by you all. But you know how much of a part of my grief journey this is. So at the wisdom of my counselor, yet again, she had me start reading this book called As Long as You Need by J.S. Park. And I want to read an excerpt for you that will kind of frame what I'm going to share in this episode. So he says, "A future that falls mid-flight still needs to land. An unfinished dream still looks for a way into the waking world. The world may force you to move on, but that grief story still needs to be voiced, told. If you're able to voice this grief in some way, whether continually in small moments or with a single grand gesture, I hope you will. I hope someone will go there and then with you. Losing a dream is a death. It must be grieved, and grief needs to be spoken. Sometimes it needs to be screamed." So, losing a dream is a death. With that as the umbrella for me sharing this snippet of our life, I hope I can do it justice. I'm not going to be able to go into a ton of detail, but I'm going to try to paint the picture of what I've been going through. 2020, Michael had this just clear and direct vision of what he wanted to work towards for his life goal, life career. And it's this development project. And he was bringing together kind of my passion and expertise and his passion and expertise, and meshing it into this development project that was really centered on flourishing, the flourishing of people in community. And it is a very different model of developing than most developers like, but it is unique and it is very truly gospel centric. And there are beautiful examples of this type of development happening around the country. And they were encouraging to us. And we actually took trips to go experience them and learn and discover what it was, what made this place so unique. How is it running so well? Why is this working? And let's bring something like this here to Virginia Beach. So I used to be a wedding planner. I love the wedding industry. I wanted to try and figure out how to make it work again in life. But instead of wedding planning, I wanted to own my own wedding venue. I wanted to host the weddings at my property. Michael has always wanted to, again, get into commercial development. And so he dreamt up how we could do these two things in Virginia Beach, what we would need, how we would want it to work, what the purpose of it would be, who we would want to bring alongside us. And 2020 really launched just this vision for us where we committed like, hey, let's start more than dipping our toes in the water. Let's jump in, test the temperature, and see if we can run with this. And we really felt like this was something that we were called to do. And Michael had been reading Aquinas in the Marketplace. So St. Aquinas has this giant book, this very heady academic book of it's like theology and commentary on when faith meets the marketplace and economic, and what is the highest economic, or what is the highest good in humanity, and what really makes things successful and tick. It was fascinating. So Michael, again, I've said it before, he's like low key, really, 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 really smart. And we love people, we love connections, and doing this made sense. So I wanted to have a wedding venue. He designed this project where it would all be centered around a wedding venue, and there would be a commercial aspect to it where we would have smaller retailers, could be wedding adjacent. You could have a florist, you could have a baker, but we'd have like your local beloved coffee shops and our favorite grab and go restaurants, maybe even a nice sit down restaurant in this like village-esque retail shop that is beautiful, has great outdoor community space, and is designed for the flourishing of people. So we didn't want to just build another strip mall surrounding the wedding venue and the space. We were doing this on acreage. We wanted to create a place where it was a destination for you to come and spend time at, whether you were a local mom wanting to get out of the house or meet another mom with your toddler and you wanted to go grab a cup of coffee and have a bunch of green space for your children to run, or whether you were visiting Virginia Beach and you were staying at the oceanfront or staying in Sandbridge and you wanted to bring your family somewhere, besides the beach house. Like, where's a great place with outdoor space for you to hang out and get a bite to eat, grab a drink? Where could you come for a wedding destination that has everything you need for your wedding, but also things for the family the week of, leading up to the wedding, the weekend during the wedding, and after the wedding for your guests to stay? Like, there's just not many places in Virginia Beach like this. And we just felt like we wanted to tackle it and make it happen. So we prayed a lot about it and just in wisdom just took little baby steps forward, one step at a time. We began with creating a white paper, creating a plan, asking big questions business-wise. And we met with the director of economic development in Virginia Beach, and he loved the vision and led us to so-and-so, introduced us to so-and-so. We began meeting with them, sharing with them the vision, asking questions, where do you recommend this goes? Where do you recommend we do this? Like, do you have any tips for us? Who should we talk to next? And we were led eventually to someone who became a dear friend to us in the agriculture department, who led us to a landowner of this beautiful property that we fell in love with, that was in the perfect spot for this development that we wanted to create. So we began a relationship with him, and over the course of a year, just built a relationship and shared our vision. And he loved the vision. He loved the idea of this legacy on this property that he had for decades, and what it would be to the surrounding community and Virginia Beach. Everyone was aligned. And so we negotiated a contract on this property after a year. So that was a huge win. And then the next step was to go get our conditional use permit from the city. So we began meeting with planning and zoning to make sure that everything we wanted to do, big picture, in the furthest phase, and we worked backwards, like what zone do we need? What do we need to change? What's going to work? What is allotted for in the current zoning as is, with the least amount of change? And we built a plan from there in congruence with the city. So like, we just had this good working relationship on several levels that really, I want to say, like, it garnered favor along the way, because we were not hiding anything. We were working for the betterment of our community, and we have a lot of respect for people when we work with them, and kindness. And that's just the way we roll. Okay. So we were able to hire our engineers and our architects, excuse me. So our architecture firm was so fun to work with. I adore those people. And our engineer, he was awesome. He was very familiar with doing projects with the city. Like, we had a really solid team together, and together we took baby steps and solved problems. Michael and I began to meet with community members in the area surrounding this property, local businesses, developers, just sharing our vision, sharing our dream, explaining what we were doing, explaining that we were not crazy people coming in to try and disrupt things, but we were part of the community here wanting to do something. We would love your support for this. And so the next year, we were able to get the conditional use permit for the wedding venue approved. It went through the city. Not only was it a unanimous vote for yes, they had the kindest words for us at this city council meeting. The mayor and other councilwomen and councilmen, they were so complimentary towards Michael and I and what we were doing, and just were on board, like, hey, we can't wait to stand beside you, and we want to be there at the ribbon cutting ceremony when this opens. So like, another huge victory that we were able to have in this process together. It was not all easy. There were a lot of hurdles that we had to navigate and figure out how to move forward from, but we were able to, Michael and I together as a team. On the fun side, like I got to begin designing my wedding venue, and it was so beautiful. This building was incredible, and it had everything that I wanted it to have to make your event run perfectly, because I was designing it as a wedding planner from the beginning. I knew how to create a space for everything and to make logistics work. You weren't fitting a wedding into this box that it had to fit in. I was able to design the box exactly for your large wedding. And if you've ever done a wedding, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, it was just, this kind of thing made me tick. It was so much fun. So there's a lot of hardships. There's a lot of fun things, like the fun design process and the making connections and building relationships. And then there were a lot of scary things, because Michael and I are financially committed at this point. We have, hired these people to work for us, for engineers and architects, and we are paying money on the contract, and we are choosing to risk. We're making calculated risks and being okay with it. But Michael and I were risk takers. Like, not everyone is comfortable with this. I get it, but we were together. We were in it together. We continued to pitch to almost every developer in Virginia Beach. Momentum is building all along. Like the wedding industry, like people in the wedding industry started reaching out to me because word was spreading. Once we got that conditional use permit and there was a newspaper article about it, word began spreading, hey, this is the vision for this property here. And the whole wedding industry was like, yes, like we are on board. And it was so fun. But again, not without the hardships. And this is kind of where in the journey of Michael's career, he really fell in love with that song, The Story I'll Tell by Maverick City and Naomi Rain. And he would take breaks when work was hard, when life was tough. He would just play that song over himself, embrace the words of this song, turn around, play it on the piano for like 10 minutes of just this brain break often. So this song, The Story I'll Tell, is just like woven throughout our life of this project. And it was beautiful. We were like, yes, one day we're going to tell the story to our kids who are, well, actually with us in these trenches, watching us. They're dreaming alongside of it with us, but we're going to tell this story of how we got to where we're going. And this is hard. We can't see the outcome, but like, we believe that the Lord is going to pull through and this is going to happen. We built it a little bit more, added on some like grew our team a little bit, and we're getting to a good place. So this is 2023, right? Yeah. And the beginning of 2024, Michael's accident happens, right? So February 5th, 2024. Not but 2 months before that, Michael had been invited by this developer in Atlanta who he followed on Twitter or X, to go to one of his smaller conferences in Atlanta and be with the people who developed the Beltline, which is the really cool walking trail bike path that surrounds their city with tons of development around it, and learn from a bunch of developers around the globe, really. And so he went to Atlanta in October before his accident for the purpose of making connections, learning from some of the best, and came back so energized with so many connections. And then boom, February. And early on in the hospital, I'm talking like day one, I remember not only am I in shock, like flooded with the loss of Michael potentially, and oh my gosh, what happened? But I also remember being like, hold on. Michael and we're working on something. Michael and I are doing something. Like we have this dream. Like what's going to happen? Like I remember being like, oh my gosh, he's a realtor right now. That's how we're making money. Like he has to go out there and sell homes and help people buy homes. And that's how he gets paid. Like if he is gone, or if he is here in a hospital bed, like how is any of this going to work? How is our project going to work? We're on the line for a lot right now, like panic setting in. But I wasn't able to live in that panic fully because I was just captivated by the shock of what just happened to Michael. So as the month of February goes on, my incredible brother-in-law steps in, and our friend who is a developer who was partnering with us on this, they step in and they say, hey, Megan, do you want to continue keeping the ball rolling on this? Because remember how I said our contract was up at the end of 2024 on this property. And we're at the beginning of 2024. Like, time is working against us here. So they wisely came alongside and said, are you going to keep doing this, Megan? Keep pursuing this project, keep paying for this project. And I remember sitting in the hospital in Norfolk being like, wow, I think my world just changed. So if my husband is, we didn't know what his prognosis was at this point. If he could never, ever, ever work again, walk again, talk again, think again, I have to be solely responsible for my family. What do I want to do? Yeah, I want to do this business. I want to run a wedding. I want to do this. I want to carry our dream. I want to carry this torch that Michael and I had. I want to see it happen. So like, I tried to be very rational and wise and bring it before the Lord in the middle of all my grief, tried to have those things in this conversation with my brother-in-law and our friend. And I was able to say, yeah, I want to do this. This is what I choose if I have to be the only one to take care of my family now. So they said, okay, we're going to come alongside you and fill the gap that Michael is leaving until the time, until we don't need to anymore, but help you keep the ball rolling. So they just were, they were a godsend in the moment. And we had this standing phone call every Tuesday at the end of February. Every Tuesday we would meet at like 4:00 on the phone, and I would give them the latest because somehow I was able to use email and work on the project a little bit, obviously letting everybody know what happened, which I can only imagine being on the receiving end of that email, what people thought, like, okay, is this person crazy? Her husband is in the hospital now. They could probably see where this was going, but I was determined to try. So every Tuesday at 4:00, we would powwow and talk about, what I needed to do this week, what they needed to do this week, who we were going to talk to, what was happening next, to just keep keep it moving forward. As time went on and it became apparent Michael was going to need to go to rehab, obviously we went to Atlanta, which I thought was so cruel. How in Atlanta, there I am in Atlanta. Michael had just been in Atlanta. For a couple episodes back, how I said the first place we took Michael outside the hospital was this development in Atlanta. Like me and Anthony and Michael are literally walking on the path of the bike trail, the Beltline in Atlanta, where Michael had just been dreaming about our development, dreaming about making Virginia Beach better with these guys here in Atlanta. And now my first time here is walking my rehab patient husband through this bike trail, visiting all these things where it just felt like, it felt so cruel. Like things were just slipping away is what it felt like to me. I'm sorry, I'm not doing a good job at explaining this, but it became apparent too that Michael was healing slower than we wanted to. So if I wanted to keep this going, I had to change the model of what we were doing. And so it felt like, again, a piece of this thing that Michael and I had was just breaking off in chunks. And I'm like molding it to fit a new vision now. So I can still do this, but this is what we need to give up. This is what we need to sacrifice. And it made sense. I was like, okay, I get it. This is fine. And I'm okay with this. But also it was awful to make decisions on my own. Michael and I had been hand in hand, side by side in this whole process since the origination of this idea. So now I had to alone make these decisions, try and think about what he would think. Like, he was the brains of this operation, not me. I didn't want to do without him. So thank God my brother-in-law and our friend were alongside me. But it felt awful to make all these choices without Michael, and reminded me that I was alone for the time being. So for the next several months, we pivoted and got extremely close to tying a bow on this package and being able to say, and being able to be all in, close the deal. We found this particular family who was going to be all in, and that's what we were waiting on. It took a lot. It was a lot of molding and shifting and changing and releasing and surrendering to the Lord of all our best laid plans. But now realizing, wow, this is the cards I've been dealt. So how do I make the most of this in this scenario while still hanging on to the one thread of the dream, right? one thread of this. So we got to that point where I had one thread left and it was close and it was going to happen. And clearly my husband was not able to work now. So it was dependent on me. And mind you, he's not working all this time. I'm not working. I'm trying to not think about the financial side of things because it's terrifying. It's like threatening to drag me down at any moment. And we get to the point of last summer, where I am waiting to hear from a specific person on the final answer for this family. And we're sitting in Michael's speech therapy session this day, and I get the notification on my phone that there's a text message. And I remember looking down and seeing the name, and like my heart just leaps out of my chest. And I read over the text, and it's basically like this just apology, right? Of the answer is not now. And what that reading it, my heart leaps out of my chest and then it sinks. As I'm sitting there in speech therapy, Michael's doing his thing. I like feel like I got so small in that moment. And my heart broke again because I knew that this was our final shot and this was the last straw. And I ran out of time because there was only 1 quarter left of the year and there was no way that I could start back at zero with finding my investor in 3 months. And I just knew then and there in that room that this was it. And going back to that quote, like losing a dream is another death. Okay. So not only am I dealing with ambiguous loss of my husband and we've lost, so I've lost like my relationship with my husband, almost lost his life. Our family unit, those hopes and dreams there, like lost that, grieving those things. And now the weight of this text message is hitting me as the loss of a dream, which at the time I would never have told you it is equivalent to a death. But let me tell you, the emotions that came as I sat there, I remember being like, you got to hold this together. You got to hold it in right now, Megan. You got to get through this. And after our session, I remember I had to go pick up papers at the kid's pediatrician. And so we drove in the car to the doctor's office to go get these forms I needed to pick up. Michael in the passenger seat, me driving. And I remember driving and feeling like I wanted to sob and sob and sob. But Michael didn't understand in the passenger seat, didn't understand what was going on, what just happened. He didn't know how to hold my emotions. He didn't know how to receive my emotions. If I broke down like I felt like I wanted to there, it would be very confusing to him. And I felt like so severed between him because now I couldn't share in this with him, but yet I was supposed to share in this with him, this whole journey. And like my heart is breaking for me, my heart is breaking for him, that not only has he lost who he is as a person and his career and his choices and his freedom and his ability to do so much, now he has lost like what he wanted to be his life's work. And so I am like silent tears just pouring down under my big sunglasses driving. And I asked him to sit in the car. I said, will you sit here while I run in and grab these papers? I left the air conditioning on, left the car running. He just was a sweet person and read his book. But I have this moment of walking into the doctor's office and I was just like heaving, like gasping for air. You know, when you cry and break down and it's those sobs where you're just like begging your lungs for air, but you can't get enough. And I see the curb. I see the curb between, the road and the cars or the median where there's trees and grass. And I remember like sobbing and being like, I want to just crawl. I can't even walk. I want to crawl to that curb and I just want to collapse because that looks steady right now. The pain that I was experiencing in that moment obviously is still so real now. Like I could barely put one foot in front of the other. I wanted to just make it to that yellow curb so badly. But it was like warring in my head, like, I can't do this in the Princess Anne parking lot. I can't fall apart here. I need to go into that doctor's office and get those stupid forms. I need to breathe. I need to remember that life will go on, but like the weight of what I was realizing we were losing was just, it was hitting me. And um that that feeling and that vision just like persists in my mind. Obviously, I can't even talk about it now without losing it. But I remember just like wiping it away, feeling like I was walking through drying cement, going into the doctor's office and going, and I remember being like, "Hi, I need the forms for my kids," with like a red face, and then going back to the car and just like it's like it was like a silent picture movie in my head of like everything that we had been doing for 4 years. And before that, all of the dreams, all the milestones, all the hopes, all the vision, all the successes, even the failures, everything that we had done, just like I've and I had already been slowly letting things go, right, as this project was changing. But finally having to release it, um, the the pain was so severe. And again, I did not tell myself in my mind that this is a real loss. I just thought I was being emotional because of all the medical trauma we had just been through. So, I mean, what is happening is my heart is breaking again. Like, so fresh after just having a broken heart with everything that happened in February and then the resulting trauma that our family is now living through. What I don't even have a whole heart, and it's continuing to break at the loss of this dream and this, what this one no meant for us and the devastating effects of losing it all. And I'm alone. I'm alone in this. Like I never set out on this journey to do this alone. I needed my partner. I needed Michael. We would carry each other emotionally through this. He would have strong weeks when I would have weak weeks. And I would be on an emotional high when he would be low, and we would pull each other up. But now I was doing it alone, and he couldn't hold that with me. He couldn't understand. So it just felt so incredibly isolating. Also heartbreaking and isolating and devastating and financially so scary. It's like I'm in the parking lot that day feeling like I'm losing my future. I'm losing my hopes. I'm losing my dreams. I'm losing work. I'm losing vision. I'm losing financially. This is devastating. And again, like worst of all, I'm experiencing all this alone. That holding that amount of pain is a lot. And again, it's like that's why I say like it's layers, because like Michael's health was first and foremost the most important thing in our life. Michael healing, Michael recovering. Like, yes, there are mercies and miracles happening in our life. Like that was most important. But then our future and our family and what we were doing was underneath that. And it was so uncertain and obviously not working out. It was isolating. I was so confused and I was working through despair. And then, I got to turn around and have all these awkward, hard, disappointing conversations with everyone we're working with, everyone that I owe money to, like all the dreams, like it was well known what was going to happen. And now like we just disappear. And I know it was not our fault. I know that Michael's injury and now new medical state was a pretty darn good excuse for why this wasn't happening, but like I had to let it go over and over and over, and I had to explain it over and over and over and have hard conversations all the time while in the midst of grieving Michael and figuring out our new life and realizing I need to take all my kids to counseling and all my limitations of not being able to do enough, be enough, even manage cooking, like all those things I'm just holding and trying to, I'm not even trying to piece together. I'm trying to clean up broken pieces now. Like it's just a lot. It's like grief times 2 or times 3 or times 4 is what this loss of this project and this dream was at this time last year. And it still hurts. And I wanted to do this project so badly. And so many things in town, driving around town, conversations, new businesses popping up, like all of this stuff reminds me of what we had going on and relationships that we had made. Like, it's never far from my mind. The loss of it haunts me all the time. However, I say haunts just because that's a great description of it. But like, I look back on everything we did with love for myself and ourselves. Like, I don't look back with pity. I don't look back with embarrassment or bitterness or anger. Like, I have a lot of love for ourselves and what we did. And like, that's my saving grace right now. Like, though it hurts and though it's painful, so much good happened along the way. It was very costly. We made risks. We took risks knowing that they were risks. And clearly it went the wrong direction. So yeah, you get to live with that embarrassment, Megan. That's fun. And I still have so many questions, right? Like, to this day, so many questions. Like, why, Lord, did you allow us to get so far? Why did you open so many doors? Why did things work so well? Why did I hear you say things? Like, was that even you, Lord? And I don't have answers to these questions. They just hurt. And I don't know what, there's still no resolution. And being able to read this book, talk through my counselor about it, has been a gift for me to be like, oh, this hurts so bad. Because one of his quotes in the book is, that dream that didn't happen is as much of a loss as losing the one that did. And if you find yourself relating to any bit of this part of my story, like, I'm so sorry. And your loss of that dream, your loss of that future dream, like, is valid. It's a valid thing for you to grieve. No wonder my smile doesn't meet my eyes half the time, right? I used to say that all the time last year, like, I smile differently. And it's because of the weight and the hurt and the sadness that I was carrying. I mean, like, we've lost so much. And things are still so uncertain for me and the kids and our family. I lost my visionary partner in Michael. Like, he was such a visionary, and without vision, like, we flounder. And that's kind of where I feel like I am now. And I'm just like, Lord, what do you have? What do you have for us? Like, there's got to be something next, right? Like, you didn't take me through all of that to just suffer continually. And I say suffer knowing that our situation is so much better than so many people out there, but the pain is still valid and still real. And yeah, I don't have a solution. Even today, I'm telling a story from a year ago, but it is just as much true today over this part of the project, and saying goodbye to something that we were working so hard towards. It's not fun. It's hard. And the loss of vision and dreams is real and something that needs to be grieved. So if you have never heard it before, here's your permission to grieve. Grieve with me. Grieve for what you have lost, dreams, hopes, on any level, because your brain sometimes can't differentiate between a physical loss and the loss of a dream. So give yourself space to process and move through it. And that's what I've been trying to do. But yeah, thank you for listening. Sorry that this is a little bit more of a downer, but again, like I said in the beginning, this would not be our story without telling you this layer of loss, and why sometimes I describe my loss to this day, I describe my losses maybe a little bit deeper of a way than I communicate, but it's because there are so many layers to the things that I have watched just slip away from my hands. But I still trust the Lord. I still trust He has a plan. I believe it. I believe He does. So, all right. I will see you next time on the podcast. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you.